I'm Ariel Beninca, Miss World Australia National Finalist, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project.
Hey everyone, it's Adrian from the Pageant Project with you. My special guest for today being Ariel Beninca, who is a Miss World Australia 2020, 2021 national finalist. I don't even
Yeah,
know anymore.
me neither.
Ariel, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. How are things in Brisbane? I'm hoping they're warmer than they are here in Sydney.
It's slightly cold, but when you grew up in Queensland, your definition of cold is different than other states. But today it's
hmm
beautiful and sunny.
I used to live on the Gold Coast, and every day seemed to be 28 degrees and humid. So when you say it's cold, does that just basically mean it's under 20 degrees? Because you guys freeze when it's under 20.
It's currently 19 degrees, so yes.
And that's freezing for you guys up in Brisbane. So, guys watching, I can see a bunch of you tuned in. So, if you have any questions or comments for Ariel, whack them in the comments below and I can pass them in. Chloe Roberts is saying, "Hey, I think Chloe is over in the UK. I think, or
Hey,
do you know
Chloe.
Chloe?
I'm not sure. I don't believe
Chloe,
so.
where are you coming to us from? I've seen your name. I think she's coming over from the UK. Anyway, Ariel, let's start with the easy stuff. Why don't you tell our viewers how you got into the crazy world of pageantry to begin with?
So it all started when I saw an Instagram advertisement for Miss World to apply, and I got through to state finals, and that was about 3 years ago now. So I wasn't quite ready for that nationals, but it really kind of got me started on that path. And so I did Miss Galaxy next as a learning opportunity, and now
hmm
I'm through to nationals for Miss World Australia. But I think my obsession with pageantry started when I was a little girl because I remember first hearing about Miss Universe, and I
hmm
actually made a little scrapbook of all the outfits and dresses I would wear for Miss Universe. And we went around in class one day and they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "Miss Universe." And the class laughed at me back then, and one person even says, "You're too ugly." Um,
Oh
back in the
God!
day.
Oh
So
wow!
I
Kids can be
think I
cruel.
know kids back then it was a very different era. And I think now, I use it as an opportunity to become a better person and really evolve.
Did you catch any of the Miss Universe International competition?
This year I watched the whole thing.
It was quite a show,
It was,
and
yeah, definitely.
our Australian Queen Maria did very well, acquitted herself
She did.
very well.
Yes.
So
It
you're
was good to see
when
Australia represented in the top 10.
It's a shame she didn't go even further, but that's
Mm.
probably a conversation we can have on another day. How long ago were, because I had this conversation with someone the other day and we were trying to remember when the preliminary finals were for Miss World Australia and then the state finals, because if I remember correctly, for New South Wales, the preliminary finals were back in late 2019, and the state finals for New South Wales are still yet to be done because it got
Mm.
pushed back because New South Wales had a COVID scare. No, Victoria had a COVID scare, and the management team of Miss World Australia was stuck in Victoria. So we still haven't had our New South Wales state finals yet, and it's only what 3 weeks to go until national finals. So
Yeah,
when were
I'm
your preliminary and state finals?
So my state finals were a few months ago, and I never did preliminaries. I got straight through to states because I did states a year in 2019.
Right.
But yeah, I am a bit worried for the states that haven't had their state final yet because they don't have very long to prepare when they do get through to nationals.
No, they're going to have like maybe 2 weeks if they're lucky.
Mm, if they're
Uh,
lucky.
yeah. Oh, Chloe has said she is watching from the UK. So hello, Chloe. Thank you for watching. It is currently 2 a.m. for you, so I don't know what
Wow.
you're doing up. But thank you very much for watching. All right, so Ariel, it's only 2 or 3 weeks away from national finals. It's not your first pageant. How are the emotions feeling? How are the emotions going this close to the big day?
I am very nervous because I feel like you can never be too prepared. Like there's no such thing as being too prepared, and you want to always take that opportunity to practice and develop yourself. But the thing I'm most worried about is my dress I ordered from Europe still hasn't arrived, and that's like the main thing. So I'm just really hopeful that arrives on time.
Do you know where it is at the moment? I'm hoping it's in transit. Is it on its way?
Apparently, they still haven't even got the fabric for it to make the dress. So, and I keep messaging them like,
Oh
guys, we don't
no.
have long now, and they just trust us, it will arrive on time. I'm like, I don't know, you don't have fabric, so it's concerning.
Oh, well, yeah. Do you have a backup plan? It's always good to have a backup plan. Oh dear.
I think backup plan, I would have to probably find a last minute dress sponsor, but this dress I have getting made is the one I'm in love with and that I would feel the most confident in. So it'd be a shame if it doesn't arrive on time.
It would. Hopefully, look, hopefully, fingers crossed, it gets there to you in more than enough time. I don't want you to divulge what it looks like, but can you give us any clue? Is it design
So
or color wise?
it's a beautiful sparkly blue gown, and the fabric that's getting made for it is quite unique. I couldn't even find anything like it in Australia. And it's got beautiful silver jewelry down as the shoulders, and I just can't wait to wear it.
It
It's
sounds
kind of
like one
like
of a
an like
kind.
yeah, it's kind of like a bit like kind of elvish, elven queen vibes as well, but then also the pageant vibes with it.
That sounds
It's from a
exciting.
it's from a country called Kosovo. Have you heard of it?
Oh, Kosovo. That's
Kosovo.
yeah.
Nice.
They had a horrible war, civil war. I think 20 or so years ago. So yeah, that's unusual. How did you find that?
So it just happens that all the best dress designers in the world just happen to be in Kosovo. There's so many amazing, talented dress designers in Kosovo.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's honestly surprising given how recent that war was.
Well, okay. So look, I hope it gets to you on time. I don't know what the status of COVID is in some of those countries, but look, hopefully it gets to you because it sounds like it's going to be absolutely amazing. Uh, in terms of the pageant, what part are you most looking forward to? Because Miss World Australia has a few different segments. So what's the most exciting part for yourself?
I think the most exciting part to me is the formal dress walk. Um, but I'm looking forward to every part of it because every part of it poses a unique challenge and something like different to bring to the table.
Danica, did you compete with Danica when you were in Galaxy?
Yes, yes, I did. Hey, Danica.
Danica, who recently won, you won Miss Globe, right? Australia, Danica. I don't want to get it wrong. And I forget the girl. I feel horrible. The girl that won Miss Intercontinental Australia. But congratulations, Danica. She says, Plan B and C. I had three of my garments arrive the week before nationals. I mean, there's nothing you can do, is there? I mean, if it
Mm.
turns up, it turns up. If not, you'll have to just make do. Now, Ariel, as we were messaging a little bit before the interview, so you have a very strong entrepreneurial bent. You are a designer, and you also have your startup here, Colis, which we'll get into in a second. Do you want to tell people just what your work entails, sort of on a daily or weekly basis as a designer? Because it's not just graphics design from what I've seen. There's all sorts of different facets to it in terms of apps, websites. You've done a lot of work for a lot of different industries. So what does your work sort of entail on a regular basis?
So I'm primarily a user experience designer, and a user experience designer's role is creative problem solving. And what we do is we design tools that people like you and everyone in every industry would use every day. And this could be something from gym management software, medical facility management software. I've even designed machinery before. Right now, I'm working on an Airbnb competitor for a travel booking website. And I've worked on so many different things, and I just love every project, and I love the creative problem solving that comes with it.
So when it comes to the user experience, what are the some of the things that you have to take into account? Because when I go onto a website, and I've done a lot of web design work in the past, if a website like Airbnb is not easy to use, is not intuitive to use, people just don't even bother these days. They'll
No.
go to something that's a lot easier to use. So when it comes to what are the sort of what's the sort of process that you have to go through when someone brings you on to work on, let's say, an Airbnb competitor? Where do you start with that process?
So the first stage is the research phase, where you would look at all the kind of competitors out there, everyone that's doing it, and look at how they do things and how it can be improved upon. Then I go through the design inspiration phase, which is more of a conceptual design. Look at how, to make it brand look and feel when it all comes together. And I think the most important thing is to apply already tested conventions. So when something
Mm.
is familiar to a user, they're more likely to have a better user experience. And the goal is to make it as intuitive and easy to use as possible, because it affects people's daily lives. And there's a big element of psychology to it as well.
Can we dig into that a little bit? Because I don't know when you mentioned that it has to be intuitive, that's obviously very important. Do you have the users like do beta tests and things like this and then get their feedback and then adjust the design based on what the users say?
Yes, sometimes we do. So we would do like live user testing. I've even done studies based off tracking users' eye movements when they're scanning
Mm.
through digital content and looking at how that affects responsive design, because often the design has to change quite drastically from desktop to mobile, and the different user experience depending on the digital device it's on. And I think that's one of the challenges as a digital designer, is having this intuitive experience seamlessly across all these devices.
And how did you get interested in this in the first place? Because it's quite, I mean, you mentioned that when you were in school, you were laughed at because you said you wanted to be Miss Universe. I mean, the work you're doing at the moment is quite far removed. I mean, it's still glamorous. You're still making things that look amazing, but in a slightly different field. So how did you get involved or interested in the field to begin with?
So I've always been a creative person and done little creative projects. Um, and so I was like, how can I turn this creativity into a job? So I studied graphic design at university, but
Right.
I had somewhere along the line, about, I think I was like in high school, like when I was 16, I got extremely interested in how websites work, how they're built, like how I was really curious. So I started actually teaching myself how to code, and I'm also a front end developer, and I'm doing the front end development for this project now as well. And I did my first little Game of Thrones fan page website. It had snow falling down, and
Okay.
from there, I realized there was a big gap in digital designers. Like, there isn't that many out there, and it's hard to find good digital designers. And my in university, my unique path was filling that gap in the digital world and designing for user experience and web, because it brings so many elements together. You've got that creative problem solving aspect as well as the design aspect, that
Mm.
and it's something that people use. It's a tool that betters people's lives, and that has an effect on them, as opposed to a billboard they might see.
Absolutely. Can you just clarify for me? I think I understand, but front-end developer, when you say that, what does that actually mean? Because I understand, most people understand graphic design, you're designing graphics, but what's a front-end developer?
So there's two sides to every development. A backend is kind of structuring a database and a logic with way things interact with each other and work. So requests, so just say I want to log in, that would be the backend, would be the actual what happens in the database, finding
Yeah,
information, matching it to the password. Front end
yeah.
is making everything look pixel perfect, and like the layout and the structure of the page. So the kind of like developing the user interface of the digital experience.
Right, got it. So back end, in a case of something like Airbnb as a database of all the properties around the world or in Australia, and then the front end is how I guess users interact with that information or access that information. Would that
Mm.
be correct?
And also how that information is displayed.
Right. Okay. So when it comes to your front end development work, is that slightly different to the graphic design? Because I've contracted graphic designers before to do things like logos or to do I don't know, Photoshop work. But the front end development, would that be slightly different to the graphic design or completely different to graphic design?
Completely different. So we're building workable interfaces. So we build websites and we build software, we build apps, things that are interactive. Whereas the design part of it, it's not interactive. It's just a mock-up or a file that gets sent to print. So when you know, doing development, you work with code and you work with different coding languages like HTML,
Mm,
SAS, CSS, JavaScript. And it's very much not a visual interface, but when you're designing, it's more of a visual interface when you mock something up.
got you. Got you. All right. Because I've done programming before, so I know what you're talking about. There are there many people who do both? Because I don't actually know many people who do both the design, because it's one discipline, design, and then it's almost a completely different one, coding, isn't it?
Yeah, there really isn't many who do both, and it's especially even rarer to have someone that does both well, because they are
Mhm.
completely different jobs. And if you go back 10 years, they weren't so different because everyone was just building. They weren't, there wasn't that design phase. So if you wanted a
Yeah.
website, someone would just build it straight in code in like 10 years
Yeah.
ago, but probably 20 years ago now.
That's what I did.
But
I
yeah, yeah,
remember those days. Yeah, I do.
good
It's a
old, good old days.
in ter- it's got to be. I mean, I've already said it. It's a bit probably rare to find someone who can do both. It's got to give you a huge advantage though, because I'm just thinking if I was to bring on someone to do, so I was looking at, for example, doing a pageant site, kind of like Airbnb, but for pageants, where girls could leave reviews of their experiences with pageants, and trying to find someone who could do the front end programming of it, but could also make it look good was extremely difficult, and I wasn't actually able to
Mm,
find someone who could
yeah.
do that. On the other hand, there were people who could sell you a really pretty looking website, but behind it, the database and how people access it was awful. So
Mm.
how have you found being able to bridge both? I mean, you said you taught yourself the skills.
Yes. So the reason why I taught myself the skills in the first place was to build my own designs and make them pixel perfect, because a lot of the times you might find a front end developer that doesn't make your design look like what you had done, and the padding isn't
Exactly.
perfect, the font weights and stuff like that. So as a designer, the benefit is I know that everything I code will be exactly like how I design and be looking pixel perfect. And what you were talking about before, it's really three parts. You have someone, you pay someone to design the website, you pay someone to do the
Mm,
front end, and you pay someone to do the back end. What's more
mm,
common is front end and back end developers. They're called full stack developers who can do both.
right. This is so funny because I'm learning so much as I go. Because when I was trying to get someone to design this website, I was like, "What's full stack? What's front end? What's back end?" I understood front end and back end, but full stack to me it just sounded like pancakes when they have a full stack of pancakes. I was very very confused. But I mean, to your point, even the people who said they were full stack, they're not. They weren't really full stack because they weren't good at both. They could probably do both, but they always seem to have come from one of those disciplines first
Yeah.
and then sort of tacked on the other discipline, but not well. So if they were good at front end and you got them to do anything back end, they weren't very good at it. And I used to do back end work, so I could tell they weren't good at it. And on the other hand, people who do databases very often aren't good at designing anything that's easy to
Mm.
use.
If they aren't good at the front end, like structuring the HTML, making it look like the design, if there's a designer involved. Yeah, and I think a lot of the times I end up coding for the job I'm working on as a designer is because the front end is far off from what I design.
Horrible.
I'm like, that's
Yeah,
horrible. And
it's
you
horrible.
kind of give up trying to explain it at one stage. I just kind of, there's a point where you're like, I give up, I'm just going to do it. And you know it's going to be good quality code and exactly like design it.
Okay, so then building on from that, is that what led you to be in the process of launching Colist? Because you've got your startup, and I've got it in front of me here, Ariel. So Colist, and your tagline is it's a directory of creative contract talent. Is part of the reason you started that is because of your struggles of finding quality people that you could work with?
100%. I
Okay.
also used to work with a lot of design agencies, and we would often need people to come in for certain projects we didn't have enough resources to do ourselves in-house. And the struggle of finding those contractors when you needed them was real. So I ended up actually reaching out to people in Facebook groups, making Facebook posts, and creating a spreadsheet of contractors that we can contact when we needed them. Because it's about building your own contact list so you know who you can go
Mhm.
to when you need them. Because you might not need them now, but you will need them eventually. And that's why what CoList is, it's a contact list that you can find the right people when you need them. And it's also a digital recruitment platform that aims to replace recruitment because recruitment in the contracting space isn't so, clear. Different recruiters have different ways of charging for contractors. So sometimes I might subcontract through a recruiter. So they're charging the client $80 an hour, and then I invoice the recruiter $60 an hour. So they take that profit.
Yeah.
And there's been one instance of a recruiter even saying that the business has to pay them 20% on top of what I charge them. So yeah, it's just not so much of a clear space, and that's what CoList aims to bridge in making it a lot easier to find the right people and not have to involve recruiters.
So is it fair to say that when it comes to recruiting contractors, that there are some, let's say, less than ideal business practices going on behind the scenes?
Like it's hard to say because you don't know what is normal and you don't know what works
Mhm.
for people. But there is no there's no common way of doing it. Some recruiters even just charge a fixed fee for finding you a contractor. But because it's
Yeah.
different from full time, you don't know how long they're going to be working with you for. You don't know like how consistent that work will be if it's a short-term project or a long-term project. Contracting becomes a more gray area.
Yeah. So I have the website. Are you okay, Ariel, if I bring up the website just on
Yeah,
screen
sure.
for a second? So I'll show people because it's one thing to talk about, it's another thing to actually look at it. So here, now as it says on the website, it's beta launch version 1.0. So
Yeah.
what you can see here is the directory, and Ariel's got herself at the top there as an example. So you've got the names, you've got the locations, the skills, so be UX/UI, web design, app design, product design, all those sorts of things. Availability is when they're available to work, the rate obviously, and then the likes is kind of like an Airbnb sort of rating, I think.
Mm.
When are you looking to actually launch this? Because I mean, I understand that's just a screenshot or a screen. I like how you got Jack Sparrow at the bottom, by the way, and Will Smith. I'm just realizing this now. Um, when
Yeah,
when
if you
Jack
look at
Sparrow?
any of my if you look at any of my design mock-ups, we always have to come up with our own dummy content, and I put the weirdest things in my mock-ups. So there's always little Easter eggs like that. But the
Now I'm
platform
kind
is
of wanting to
absolutely
go.
I took most of them out, but I've gotten in trouble for some before.
Oh,
I put for one of my mock-ups once, I put a bunch of politicians in the for people in the mock-ups,
okay.
and I gave them really funny titles. Um,
Please tell me you
but
didn't put Donald Trump in there.
I did, and
Oh
I
no.
put,
Oh,
I,
oh.
that's the one I got in trouble for, because they didn't
Of
like the
course.
tagline.
I can
Uh,
imagine. Yeah.
yeah, so it's actually you can actually make an account right now for the beta, so you're able to make either a business or a contractor account. But right now you can search the list and see people's profiles, and you can contact them through email. But for the actual MVP launch, we want to have direct messaging, so you can direct message those people as well as
Hmm.
job posts. And I really want to get shareable profiles in there so people can share profiles with one another. And it's kind of going to be like a LinkedIn recruitment platform, but you can see people's availability and hourly rate already. Whereas opposed when you're on LinkedIn, you don't know if they've got a full-time job, they're not available, or if they're even contractors. So it's going to become like a really smart contract list of contractors, and
Mm.
have that full workflow involved. But right now, you can sign in, make an account for either, and it still functions as a beta launch.
When are you looking to take it out of beta and make it public?
Once we've got those features, the problem is I've run out of money, and so things are a bit slower now. Kind of doing it when I can.
Right. Okay. So you got to do some startup or do everything yourself the good old fashioned way.
Yeah,
Have you? I'm imagining you would have, but have you used platforms such as Fiverr, Upwork, and things like that before?
yeah, I have. So I actually used Upwork when I was trying to find someone to help myself with a project. And the problem I found with it is you have to pay through the platform. And I didn't realize the
Yeah.
currency was in USD. So
Hmm.
thought I was paying someone like 50 AUD an hour, which would be fair. They were based in Russia. But then it ended up being more like over 75 AUD an hour once the bill was in. Um,
Yeah.
and so I find that when you pay in USD currency versus Australia, when the conversion hits you, I could have found someone in Australia that could have done just as good or a better job for cheaper and paid them in our own currency. So what I focus on with CoList is really finding local people, because you would rather have someone near you so you can go have
Mm.
in-person meetings with them. You have that time zone that matches up. And if you want them to come into your office and work in your office, you can. So the difference here is you can find local people in your own city, and it focuses around that. And you don't have to pay through Colas as a platform. We are not taking payment for the contracting work. The contractor deals directly with the business. And so we're going to
Oh,
monetize it
okay.
different. It's going to be monetized differently than how Upwork or Fiverr is, because it's more of a contact list. And so I'm going to be making premium features
Hmm.
to
Got
upgrade
it.
as, instead for making money through charging, because there's a lot of issues there with currency and also insurances as well.
Okay. That's very interesting because there's a new competitor. I can't remember what the name of it is, but there's a new competitor coming out to Upwork and Fiverr that their point of difference is they're not charging any commissions at all, which
Mm,
when you're a creative looking for work, and it's a very competitive field, and it's very hard if you're a good creative to sort of stand out from the crowd because there's so many people charging, cents and chips compared to everyone else. Um, so when you're not getting paid much, and then someone's taking a 20% or 30% commission off
mm,
every dollar you make, even tips, that was something that I really took exception to. It's like I think Fiverr even takes commission off tips, and their reasoning
yeah,
for that was because otherwise people would just pay you through tips, and then Fiverr wouldn't get the commission. So I understand that, but when you're creative and you're taking on contract work and it's not full-time work, taking a
yeah,
lot of commission, it just doesn't seem fair. I mean, is that fair to say? I mean, have you experienced the same
yeah.
sort of thing
Like
that I have?
that's why Colas doesn't take any commission either. So I'm curious to hear about this new startup though. You should link me. I don't think I've heard of them. Um,
Well, I will. I can't remember what it is, but
mm,
there's a young woman who does copywriting. Her name is Alexandra Fasulo, and she's making $400,000 a year, I think, of US of Fiverr. So that's obviously a
wow.
huge chunk of money. Now she's making millions of dollars because she got press coverage, and she's educating a lot of people now how to become freelancers on Fiverr. But this new startup has brought her on as sort of as an ambassador because, no commissions. So I will find it later and I'll link you to it. But I'm really it's interesting because I'm glad you said that about CoList, because there's going to be a point of difference for you guys. A, no commission, and B, the thought about bringing someone into the office is interesting for me because some work you don't really need people to come in, because you just tell them what to do and they can get it done. Doesn't matter where in the world. But design to me has always been one of those ones. I'd rather have a sit down meeting with someone so that I
Mm,
can have the back and forth. It's very difficult for me in an email to say, this is what I want my website to look like. I want it to be blue. And then you as a designer go, well, what does that mean? blue. Like, and so then you have spent all this time going back and forth. So are there sorts of works, like in your experience, that it's better to have a sit down meeting for rather than sort of trying to do it through email?
Okay, the thing that I think is best to have a sit down meeting for is nutting out user experience design, because I often do workshops with my clients where we basically nut out the whole workflow of their app or product. And doing with that really can't be done virtual, because you need that paper pen experience, the whiteboard in front of you where you
Yeah.
can really
Yeah.
map
Yeah.
the whole journey out. But another area that Colas will focus on is in-house contracts. So like some businesses might need someone for 6 months as a
Mm.
full-time contractor for maternity leave, or a creative agency might need someone for 3 months. So there's that business opportunity as well as the freelance projects is only one side of things, but you look at in-house designers as well under a contract is also a part that Colas will service.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay. So that's a startup. That's a design work. In terms of what was I going to ask? I was going to uh I forgot what I was going to ask because I've seen the next topic I wanted to talk to you about was actually chess. So why don't we segue to I just got it here. So why don't we talk about chess? Because when you were sending your bio to me, you mentioned chess and you described it in a particular way, which is escaping me at the moment. But can you give people? I don't think I've ever interviewed anyone who's mentioned the fact that they play chess. So what does chess mean to you? How did you get into chess?
So I started playing chess because I wasn't very popular in primary school, so I often spent my lunch breaks in the library, and there were a bunch of board games in the library, and this was like grade two, and so I would just play random people at chess. And I remember that when I was like in grade two versing someone in grade seven, and I actually won. So like it's kind of comes from what chess to me is it's a strategy exercise, and it also ties into strategy work with user experience design. And I think it's also a way to exercise our minds to think about that strategy side of things a bit more. And then the way I would describe it, it's you're battling yourself against the error, because if you make a mistake, then that's what you're fighting within yourself, but you're also against the other person and versing their own wit. And it kind of becomes a game of who doesn't make a mistake. And that is the victor. And that's what I found when doing chess tournaments. It's trying really hard to not make a mistake and think of the way to get the upper hand on the other person. But I also have been playing online chess tournaments with chess.com, and that was more just like something I really enjoyed doing as a hobby. Just like you play live games with everyone around the world. It can be 10 minutes, can be 30 minutes. And yeah, it's just something I kept doing when I wanted to have like a break from my work. And yeah.
I haven't played chess for a very long time. I found it a very cerebral intellectual exercise. When I normally go to play games, I need my brain to switch off. I can't do that for chess, otherwise I would just lose straight away. How often do you get to play chess? Is it a weekly thing, a monthly thing?
Well, I used to go to the weekly chess tournaments, but I've taken a break because it was every Thursday night. And I've taken a break to really focus on Miss World. But I think it's more kind of, it just comes in phases of if I feel like doing it or not. And, you like 2 months of being really interested in something and doing it all the time. And then you're like, okay, what's the
Mm.
next thing to focus on?
When you go to play the tournaments in person, uh, is it what percentage is male and female? Just out of interest, I have no idea.
It's highly male, but there's a few females.
Right. Do you does it feel good to be one of the few females there and to beat some of the guys at their own sport?
It can be sometimes. There's also some really intelligent children there. So, like, you see these like 6-year-olds that are beating adults at chess. So it's just amazing to see all these kind of people that gather for this game, and how just how you just can't expect anything. Someone that you wouldn't expect to win could really beat anyone. So no matter what your age or what gender, chess is about your ability to think and strategize, and there's no bias towards
Mhm.
that.
And when you play, I mean, I've seen it. I didn't play to a competitive level at all, but I've seen it on TV. Do you always have the clock? Is that how it goes? So there's something I think that's called speed chess, or there's certain times when you just play without the clock? How does that work?
So when every tournament you have a clock. So the normal
Right.
tournaments are you get an hour each, so it's quite a long game. Speed chess is where you might only have 10 minutes for the whole game. And you still have to write your moves down as well. So every time you make a move, you've got to write it down.
Right. Okay. And which one do you prefer to play? The speed variety or the 1 hour variety?
On my phone, the speed variety, I just feel like I'm a lot better on a digital chessboard because I'm used to it. But when
Yeah.
it came to playing on a real board, it just felt so different, and I didn't get that bird's eye view perspective. So if I'm playing with the board, it would be the hour game. But if I'm playing on my phone, the 5 minute or 10 minute game.
That's interesting because chess is such an old sport, but you're used to seeing it in a digital
Yeah,
representation. So it's like the new version of a very, very old game in a way.
yeah.
Uh, Now, Danica, oh, all the way back. Yes, Miss Global Australia and my sister queen is, that's right, Courtney Tester, Miss Intercontinental Australia. Thank you, Danica. Janice, who's over in Canada, has asked, have you seen the Queen's Gambit?
Yes, I have. I really enjoyed watching that. It was really good to see not only chess represented on TV, but also a female chess player represented. And I wish that was based on a true story because it would have been very fascinating.
What happened in the, I mean, I don't know if it's spoiler alert, but I've not heard of that movie. What happened in the movie? Was it based on chess, was it?
It's a Netflix series. It's about this female
Oh, okay.
child chess prodigy who basically becomes the world champion chess player. But she's also battling her own mental struggles as well.
Okay. All right, I'll have to look that one up. When it comes to chess, is there anyone that you have kind of looked up to as a role model of how to play chess? I mean, I ask because I play tennis and I taught myself how to play tennis. And obviously, you grow up, you pick your idols as to how they play and you try and emulate them. Did you have any idols when it came to learning how to play chess?
No, when I was like 2 years old, it was just a board game in the library. But
Mm,
I definitely found Queen's Gambit really inspiring with the way that she played.
right. Okay. Have you ever played against a computer when it comes to chess?
Yes, but I don't really enjoy that because human minds are so different. Like human minds,
Mm,
you can be a great chess player having a bad day, you can miss something. And it's that element of human error that makes a chess game exciting to me. So playing against a computer
yeah.
just isn't really exciting.
Yeah, I can understand that. Apparently now it's gotten to the point where the computers basically will beat humans all the time.
Like,
I
yeah.
I don't know if I like that. Similar to yourself, I'd rather play against a human than a computer. But they've gotten chess grandmasters in, I think, now to compete against these supercomputers, and the humans used to win. But now it's to the point where your computer, as you would understand, you work with computers all the time. A computer can think of a billion possible moves, and you just really can't compete with that. So, okay. Well, that's chess. Ari, we'll move towards the close. Just before we get to the close, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to or shout outs to for supporting you along your journey, pageantry, work wise and otherwise?
I want to give a shout out to my partner's business, Balance to You, because they're helping me with a charity event. We're doing workout and meditation for charity hosted at their gym in Stafford. And yeah, I just really appreciate how everyone's coming together to support me with that.
When is that event?
The 4th of July.
Perfect. Okay. And that will be, I'm assuming, in the Brisbane area.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if you want to get involved with that, then send Ariel a message. 4th of July, you're running it on Independence Day. So,
Oh, really?
although we're not American. Yeah, 4th of July is big Independence Day in America. Okay. All right. Well, Ariel, we always finish with the same 10 questions, so let's get to it. It's not a speed round, but if you want to answer as quickly as possible, then go for it as well. So, number one, what is your favorite word?
Compassion, because it encompasses so much and can also have a big impact.
And question two, what is your least favorite word?
It's really hard to say. I don't really think of my least favorite word, but something my mum always does is she calls money petty cash. And something just sounds weird about that. So,
There was someone, a friend, I can't remember who was saying it, but someone actually used the term petty cash the other day, and I was surprised that businesses even still have petty cash. Isn't like literal, literal money. I don't remember the last time I used actual money. Everything is card or contactless now, especially after COVID. And apparently, there's still businesses that have like a cookie tin filled with money, and you have to write out. I don't know. Some businesses are a little bit behind the time. Question three. In life, what gets you excited? What turns you on?
beautiful design, and also, creating something beautiful as well. It could be something small like organizing a pantry and just staring back at it like, yes. Or it could be something like, seeing a beautifully designed website, seeing a beautiful user experience, and seeing good change in the world is a beautiful thing also.
This might be a difficult question to answer, but what is the best piece of design or some of the best pieces of design that you've ever seen when it comes to websites or apps?
Yeah, that is a hard question to answer, but I think I've drawn a lot of inspiration from Airbnb because of their TED talk about designing for trust and how we must design in a way to create trust with the user. And
Mhm.
initially, they were selling basically strangers staying in other strangers' homes, and that doesn't sound
Mm,
very trustworthy. And that was a big thing they had to overcome with design.
that's fascinating. I was really interested to hear your answer to that question because now I want to go and look at. I didn't know Airbnb. Was it a TED talk? Was it? Was it their founder who did it, or
Yeah, just go
right?
Airbnb Designing for
Yeah.
Trust by one of their founders, co-founder. Yeah,
Wow, because when you put it that way, like how strangers staying in strangers' houses, it's like that's a very good point. So you want to
yeah,
somehow build that trust. Uber is the same thing. It's like you getting into a stranger's car, which is what we were told not to do growing up as children. Don't get into a
mm,
stranger's car, and yet all of us do that now.
yeah,
Okay,
and this is why these businesses have to have such good design because they're overcoming such
mm,
a big trust issue.
yeah, absolutely. Question. So that was what turns you on. What turns you off?
Well, I think it's safe to
Bad
say
design.
bad design. When something is just done in a way that doesn't make any sense, it's illogical, and also just illogical things in life where it could be an illogical politician does something like you're like, why? What? This law doesn't make any sense. Or just yeah, just seeing a bad logo even.
What I'm not going to get you to shout out the worst logo you've ever seen, but I mean, with your brain and the design work that you do, how do you deal with mess? Are you? And I'm really interested to hear the answer. Like, do you need everything to be organized and tidy at all times, or is it the flip side and you love your organized sort of mess? How does your brain filter messy or organized given what you do for your work?
I definitely love things to look organized and be designed in a beautiful way. So like I definitely love interior design and making my house look pretty and just making, I think, organized things that make your life easier. It's easier to find something in the pantry if it's organized. It's easier to find your clothes if your closet is organized. But I am no way of neat freak, but it's good to have that initial organization, and then you don't have to like have do the dishes every night or something, but
Yeah,
it's more
yeah.
about having that organized life. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Can you just shout out like the best logo you've ever seen, or what are some of the best logos you've ever seen? I won't get you to shout out the worst, but what are some of the logos that you really love?
Well, I love looking at, the biggest brands and their logos and the logic
Hmm.
behind those, because a lot of logos have meaning that you wouldn't have otherwise seen. And I'm going to
Mm.
use Airbnb as an example here again because their logo is a heart, a person, and I think an A also. So it's an A, it's
I
a
actually like
person,
I can't remember.
and it's a heart. And that to me, it's got a lot of meaning in it. So you just look
Oh
up
wow,
Airbnb logo meaning.
I never realized that that's what it was. I mean, I've used Airbnb so much. I'll bring it up so people can see it. I didn't realize that's what the logo was. So here's the logo. I'll blow it up a little bit. So there it is over here. So it's an A,
Just go
and
to images, go to images, and there's a breakdown.
that's right.
Airbnb,
Yeah,
just
I'll
put
go.
Airbnb logo meaning and go
Got it.
images. Put meaning in there because it has the breakdown.
Meaning.
There
Right.
it
Let's
is.
have a
So you
look at.
see that first image or the second image? You can see, yeah, the
Oh,
second one I think is best. It's a location icon. I was
people
wrong actually. People, location, and love, but
love.
it's also an A. I think they missed the A. Oh, the one below it has the A in it.
That's fascinating. I had no idea. Wow. Okay.
There's a lot of hidden meaning and logos that you see every day. Like no one like FedEx, there's a little arrow in there that you would never notice until someone points it out.
Fascinating. All right, I really want to go and watch that TED talk now. I had no idea that there was so much thought going on because sometimes people, when they are starting up their own business, they want to get a logo, right? And they obsess about it and fuss about it, but it's not a meaning behind it. It's just about colors and things like that. I had no idea that there was that much thought actually put into the Airbnb logo,
There's actually
which is
a lot
fascinating
of
to me.
thought. There's a lot of thought put into a lot of brands, but to have that kind of thought put into your logo, you need to have the budget to hire a designer that would put that thought into that logo. So it's not those
That's
logos
true.
aren't like $5 logos or Fiverr. They're a professional
Mm.
or a brand agency putting hundreds of hours into it to get there.
Have you designed a logo for yourself?
I have, but the one for I've designed actually lots of logos before, including the one for the Airbnb competitor I'm doing. But the logo I've designed for myself is more based off a signature because I wanted it to feel very personal to me. So I've kind of
Yeah.
done a signature based logo. It's on my website, arielbeninca.com.
I can
Actually, I
I
don't
can
think
see
it is.
the little the favicon is a little. Oh, there it is up
Oh,
there.
the little A.
That's a nice signature you've got there. Up
Yeah,
the
it is.
top
Yeah,
left,
the
yeah.
signature. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. When it comes to fonts, do you deal much with different types of fonts? I mean, for design, I assume that's something that you work with on a consistent basis.
Yes, definitely. Fonts are the most important part of a design because typography really gives a lot of personality to the brand, and it could be the difference between something being usable or not usable. So imagine using
Mm.
an app with Comic Sans; it just would not be pleasant. And I'm not sure if you.
Comic Sans always makes me laugh because people sometimes use it for things, and I've just never found a good place for Comic Sans. I just think it looks very unprofessional. I don't know
Well,
if you
and
agree or not.
it was designed for people with ADHD to read. It definitely wasn't designed to be used the way it had
Right.
been
Okay.
adopted.
Okay. Because I have a friend who her obsession is with fonts and proper fonts. Like she's obsessed with typography. So I just have to ask you, do you have a favorite font?
I have many favorite fonts that I use, like depending on what I'm working on.
Right.
My go-to fonts for brands is Sophia Pro because it's something that's a part of Adobe Typekit, so I don't have to convince the client to buy $1,000 font because fonts can get really expensive.
A
And it's just
thousand dollar font.
yeah, like that's
They
like
cost
sometimes
$1,000. Oh
it
my God.
could
I
not
bought fonts before, but
like.
not for $1,000.
But when you think of business licensing, you've got to buy a font license for web, which is based off how many website views you've got sometimes, and you've got to buy the print font license, and it just all adds up. So
Right.
some fonts, so if you look at Airbnb, they probably spent probably like hundreds and thousands of dollars on fonts over their time because they've actually made their own font. They actually had one of the designers customize a font called Circular. I don't know if they're still using it, but
Mm.
yeah, there's a lot that typography can get quite scaled up. So that's something to consider as a designer. What's a good font I can use that the client that's in the client's budget?
Right. Okay. I just remember my friend loved Railway. She put me onto the Railway font, and ever since then, I've been kind of obsessed with the Railway font. So
Yeah, that's on
just
Google Fonts. The Google font, like everyone goes to Google Fonts for the default because there isn't any licensing or anything involved. But if you want a real standout brand, you can't really use a Google font. You need to find something more unique.
right. Okay. I feel like I'm learning so much here. All right. So we've done what turns you on, what turns you off. Question five is what sound or noise do you love?
I love like my oil diffuser. It's just such a relaxing noise with the oil diffuser, where the oil. Have you ever seen? Have you ever heard an oil diffuser before? It's
I have
like a
one right
bubbling
there.
steam.
I
Yeah,
have one right there, and you just kind of
yeah,
hear it's like hearing steam, which you think sounds weird, but it's just
yeah.
a very
It's like,
faint hissing,
but
but
it
not a
also sounds like rain. Yeah, it's like a rainy steam. So you got the bubbles of the water. It's like, and then you got the steam.
mm.
And maybe we've got different oil diffusers, so we don't know. Hard to tell. But
Oh,
mine kind of has.
no, I've got a crappy cheap one. I should get a better one because I actually really love the smell of it, but I've just got a cheap, crappy one right here. So it looks
Yeah,
like a little capsule.
yeah.
I don't have one of those big proper ones that, the giant ones that lights up because that's very soothing.
It's very
Okay,
soothing.
it is. What sound or noise do you hate?
I've, it's the kind of like chalkboard noise that makes my throat like feel weird. Like there's always those weird noises that like you're like like it might not even be something that you would normally expect, but there's like those moments where you hear something and your entire body just like like and you're just
Teases
like
up.
what was it has to stop whatever it is.
Fair enough. Now, Janice here has a very good question, and I'll be fascinated to hear your answer to this. Do you know if there's a point to wingdings, the
I
wingding
have
font?
I've never heard of wingdings. Is that a font?
Wingdings, if you go into Microsoft Word, it's literally a font where every key has turned into like some sort of random emoji. It's a very I don't know. I know what Janice is talking about. Like if you take a normal sentence and you convert it to Wingdings font, it just becomes bird, happy face, toilet, big X. It's just a very, very strange font.
It
Um,
sounds like it's not meant for words. It's a glyph font. So I use glyph fonts all the time and I use them for icons and stuff. So they
mm,
also use for web and you can
yeah,
bring those in and reference a letter and it becomes an icon of sorts. But I'm not a Windows user. So if it's a Windows thing, then I haven't been exposed to it.
have you ever tried being a Windows user, or you're just permanently in Camp Apple, Camp
Well,
iOS?
I started off as Windows as everyone because like who can afford a Mac back in the day? But yeah, I
Fair
think
enough.
I was a Windows user until about 2011 when I could finally get a Mac because
And then you
it's
never
just such
looked
a
back.
so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one. It was music. It was creatives basically that swear by Apple all the time. Music creatives, people who own design work, they all use Mac. I think that says a lot. Uh, okay, so we've done favorite sound, sound that you hate. Question seven: if you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
I've always have you ever seen a show called Avatar? And it was a cartoon back in the day. And I don't know if this counts as one superpower, but I always fantasized about controlling the four elements, the water, fire, earth, and air. And
Yep,
yeah, so I probably like I think about it like that's not a good idea to have that superpower in 2020 because it doesn't really help you in any way, but it would be really cool if you could could control the elements and freeze lakes and fly and all those things.
that would be cool. I have. Are you talking about Avatar, like the movie, or the? Because there
Mm-mm.
was another one, like
Mm.
Avatar Windbender, was it?
Yeah, it's not a movie.
Airbender.
It's a cartoon from Nickelodeon. Um, it's called Avatar: The Last Airbender.
That's right. Yes,
There
I know
was a
what you're
movie
talking
from it,
about.
but it was a horrible movie. We don't think that exists anymore. Okay, that never happened.
It never happened.
So the movie is not associated with Avatar: The Last Airbender at all. And then there's the other Avatar with the blue people.
Okay, all right. Because when you mentioned Avatar, I was thinking of the blue people, and I was like,
No.
are you? I can't remember any super, but I remember Avatar, Airbender. It's like, okay, that's what you're referencing. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
more sense. All right, the movie that we don't that never happened. Was it really that bad? Was it?
Oh my God, it was horrible. Horrible. Everyone who's ever seen the series is like, yeah, that didn't happen. We don't talk about that. I think
It
it's one
it
of the
can
worst
be.
movies ever made.
That's saying a lot because I sometimes go and watch movies based on video games, and if you want to, worst movies ever made, I'd say movies based on video games have to come pretty close to that because it's very hard to make a good movie out of a video game. I now have to watch it just to see how bad it was.
Yeah, you have to watch the Nickelodeon cartoon series first
First,
to
and then
understand how bad that is.
okay, all right. What star rating would you give the movie out of five?
A one,
And that's being
negative one.
generous. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Oh dear. All right. Question 8. What job or occupation other than your own would you most like to attempt?
I've always wanted to become a fashion designer, and one of the reasons why I love doing pageants is, curating those outfits and styling them. And I've always had a creative flair for designing clothes, and I don't really have room here for a sewing machine, but I would have loved to design and sew my own clothes for the Miss World. So I think, when I'm in a better position and have more space to work with, I definitely want to
Yeah,
attempt fashion design and start my own label.
amazing. Okay. Well, what job or occupation would you definitely not like to attempt?
It's really hard because I don't really think about other people's jobs besides what I'm already doing. Like I'm sure there's a lot of jobs that I just really wouldn't enjoy. I did try to become a back-end developer, but my brain just wasn't suited to that. Um, and I think, sometimes some people are just really like good at things, and there's just different people with different talents in the world. And if you don't have that talent, that wouldn't be a job suited to you and you don't enjoy it. And I don't think you should do something you don't enjoy. And there's plenty of things that I'm not suited to or don't enjoy.
I think it's interesting your brain didn't work for didn't like the back end development because the back end it's interesting. I know it takes a different sort of mindset, but
Mm.
that's interesting that it didn't work for you. The most common answer I get to that is like pageant girls don't want to be garbage people. That seems to be the most common one. They don't want to be the garbage man, they said. So I guess that makes a certain amount of
I
sense.
just feel like there's worse jobs, even than a garbage person. Just because, like, if you think about what would your mind hate doing versus like if you're just kind of
Mm,
doing something like labor, then it's kind of you don't really have to think.
yeah,
It's more just the
that's
smell would
true.
be really bad. The smell would be horrible.
I'm sure. Uh, Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
That's a hard one to answer as an atheist.
I
But
hear
I
you on
think,
that one.
yeah, it's like I would be more happy if there wasn't a pearly gates than. But I can't really think of something that I would like to hear him say because what I would really love is just for the world to be a better place and for some like just to know that we're all like God didn't create the suffering, and there was not a God creating the suffering in the
Mm,
world. There's not a God dictating everyone's lives, and that, humanity is controlled by ourselves, and it's up to us to, fix the problems with the world and not rely on a deity or blame a
yeah,
deity for any of the problems.
yeah, I hear you on that one. Just out of interest, do you believe in fate or destiny?
Not quite. I believe that, the universe is the universe and it exists, and that's an amazing thing. And
Mm,
our destiny and fate is to ourselves. There's nothing divine controlling the future. It's what we make of it.
yeah, yeah, I think I pretty much agree with you on that one, but to each their own, right? Whatever you believe, I say, practice what you
Yeah.
preach. So, and be kind to everyone always. Well, Ariel, that's about it. Thank you so much for coming on and thank you for your time.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I'll keep you on the line for just a sec, so don't hang up with me whilst I hang up with the audience. But thanks to everyone for watching, and we will speak to you next time. Bye for now. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Just a reminder to you entrepreneurial types to come and join us at our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/the Pageant Boss. I'll see you inside and see you in the next episode.